This is our chance.
Octopath Traveler.
I'd like to call this game Octopus Troubler, because everyone gets one. I'm sure we all have our own little funny names for it. But yes, Octopath Traveler was developed by Acquire and Square Enix Business Division 11, technically. I looked that up. I did my research. But this is one that I've tried, like a lot of games, particularly JRPGs, I've tried a number of times and it just didn't click. But this last time, I was like, no, I will get through it, I will enjoy it. I think I was leaning too much in, I've got to go through and do it in specific orders, get all the first stuff, and I was putting too much pressure on myself in a weird way. So what I ended up doing instead was just going, right, I know that I want to have Ophelia and Hanit as members of the party, but I'll save those until 4th and go around anti-clockwise. Yes, I still did a weird system, but I did it in a way that worked for me. The very first time I tried playing, I did Ulbrich first, because I just looked at all the characters and was like, oh, I'll choose the one that I'm less bothered about. That was not the right way to do it, because I didn't realise that they would technically be my protagonist until I'd completed their 4th chapter. That's why I bounced off the first one. Then with the second one, I think I started with Ophelia, because I'm like, well, a cleric's always good, but her first boss was beating me because I wasn't thinking strategically enough and figuring out the weaknesses. So each time I've iterated upon my mistakes. And this time I had a guide because I wanted to do as many of the side stories as possible. A lot of places might call them side quests, but these are side stories. There's a very crucial element to this game, and that is that it is about stories. You're not playing people's quests, you're playing chapters, and that is a crucial distinction. Once that started to make sense to me and I really sort of got my head around what this game was trying to be, I got a lot more out of it. And like I say, having the guide for the side stories to get extra money and equipment, etc. I used path actions sometimes if I didn't know who I needed to involved for like side stories and stuff, but I mainly use them to solve specific things. I didn't go around and get all of the hidden item reveals and all that kind of stuff, and I didn't take Therin with me everywhere to open all the purple chests. I could have done, but I ended the game at a point that I was strong enough to beat the challenge, so I didn't worry about it too much. But this is wonderful. The fact that once you complete your protagonist chapter, you actually get an end credits then, even if you've got all other chapter 4s to complete. I didn't realise this, so I'm just there like, I've done Tressa's because that's what I started with, because if you go Tressa then the next person, then you've got Ophelia and Hanit. But I did that and did her chapter 4 because I needed to do it to make a side quest pop up, and then it was like, oh, there's credits. But then I noticed something wonderful. The credits were showing in the order that I did things, with the team that I beat the relevant bosses. And that was a moment that just tickled me in just a weird way. I was just sat there like, wow, they actually thought of this. And I got to see all the little victories again. It's a shame that I didn't leave the 4th one until the absolute last point that I could, because it would have been nice to see them all get that end, but still, it is what it is. I'm not going to do it again to make sure that happens. That's a waste of my time. But I really did enjoy this. I dropped like 70 plus hours in. Like I say, doing all the side. I did fast travel around, and I did be as quick as possible in certain areas. Like once I knew what I was doing with the side quest, go and do it. Don't faff about. But I enjoyed this and all the different stories playing out. But there was a thought that occurred to me about, I think, the 2nd or 3rd interaction with Kit, when I was like, it almost kind of feels like we're the random people who are having lives and adventures outside of the protagonist of a story. Because you think about it, like a lot of games you play, you are the main character, and all these people have lives and stuff, and you'll maybe touch them in some way, not the people, the lives, unless they want that. I'm not going to judge. But you will be involved in these people's lives, you will interact, but they will carry on their lives regardless. Whether that's done through clever AI, schedule creation, or just headcanon. But in this game, it very much felt like we're the side people on our own journeys, on our own quests, whilst also helping other people with their own journeys and their own quests, or should I say stories. And Kit kind of felt like he was being almost protagonized in some ways, because he kept coming up in so many... He's the first side story you get, Kit the Traveller, where you give him a potion, or you give him aid. So it's very much like, oh, this guy's important. And like I said, these were thoughts I had, and then I went through the gates of Finis, and I was like, oh, wait, hold on, Kit's been lured here. Kit is being sacrificed to bring back Guldera, the 13th evil god thing. Oh dear, maybe I was right. And of course Leblanc as well, as the person who's convinced him. So after the fight with Guldera, he survives and he's like, oh, thank you all. But it very much felt like this was his story and we were just helping him out at the end. But that doesn't feel like I was cheated, because this is the true end. Beating Guldera is the true final ending of the game. In some ways, I'd have wished they'd have kept the credits until then. Maybe get like a shortened version when you complete your protagonist, but then do a full one here. I'd have maybe preferred that. I haven't played 2 yet, by the way. It's on my list, like Nier Automata. They will come at some point, I promise. But still, yes, with this, because that's the true end, it really cemented the idea that maybe Kit is the main character. And I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that, because I like the idea of playing the side roles. We're all told, especially in the Western world, that we are the centre of the universe, we're the most important, blah, 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 individualism over socialism, in every variant of that term. But in Eastern cultures, the individual is less important than the society in a lot of ways. In fact, the individual is required for society to function. If everyone works together to the same goal, it's so much better than going on your own. It's why this game is very much, you can go on your own. There is even an achievement for going on your own, on Steam at least. But it's a lot more fulfilling. You get the travel banter and all that kind of stuff when you have more than one of you. And I do love that. I do think this idea of, you are the most important, like everyone has this kind of weird protagonist mindset. Well, not everyone, but most people seem to have that in the West, and it is something I think that we have too much of. I do think that, yes, everyone being the same, blah, 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 it's too far. There needs to be a middle ground where you are respected as an individual, but also your contributions to the whole are just as valued and vital. And maybe that's what this is. Every member of the party that you bring together, you guide them towards being the most useful variant of themselves in the group. So I do really love Octopath Traveler and what it did for this idea of multiple stories converging. There's other games that have done it, of course. Its sequel, obviously, being one, I'm sure. But I haven't played any that have done it quite how this felt. And that's maybe why, even after 3, 4, 5 attempts maybe in the end, I can't remember, I've got through it and I enjoyed it because it is a fun ride. I think go out and play it yourself if you haven't. If you have, like when it was released and you haven't touched it for a while, especially if you haven't played 2, because that obviously will be your dose, if you will, after a while. But yeah, go and play it. Go through. Maybe start with a different person, try a solo route, see what happens. But it's a wonderful set of stories in a beautiful world. So I could gush about this for ages, couldn't I? I'm going to stop there. So yes, thank you very much for letting me talk about this, and until next time, as always, take care. And let the sacred flame guide you.